This is not financial advice. Should you need financial advice, consult a financial advisor. This is CryptoXL. Down by law. Yeah. All right, jumping right in. We have some controversy with Biden and his laser eyes over here. They're saying it has to do with him rigging the Super Bowl, some political stuff. What am I going to say about this? Could this be some Super Bowl meme conspiracy thing with the 49ers and the Chiefs? Maybe it was. But on a subconscious note, if you see the president of the United States with laser eyes, you're thinking about Bitcoin. No matter what the interpretation is or what they say the story is or anything like that, subconsciously, you're going to think about Bitcoin. And this gives credibility in the subconscious mind to the legitimacy of Bitcoin. So despite what the public message is of why this was done or the meaning of it, subconsciously, it reinforces the legitimacy of Bitcoin. Another thing, too, is that it hasn't been taken down. It was up for a very long time. So don't watch what they say, watch what they do, right? This is my interpretation of that. Moving right along, remember what I said about Bitcoin. I said we're going to keep knocking on heaven's door. We're going to keep knocking at the 49K, 50K level. Eventually, we're going to break it, and we're going to use a 50K as support. And that's exactly what we're doing. We've broken through, and we're going to start using it as support. Which means that one of two things can happen from here. Both of them means that we get a big green candle at some point and we explode to the upside. So we could explode to the upside and we can do really, really well, a lot quicker than expected, which means that the altcoins will also do backflips a lot quicker than expected. And then the bubble could pop and come back and retest, and we have a quicker bull run. There's a theory that the bull run is going to be moved up 6 months. So instead of the peak of the bull market being in Q4 of 2025, around November through December 2025, that the peak ends somewhere June, July of 2025. So that's one theory. A second theory, and a theory that I'm leaning more towards, is that there has been a paradigm shift because of the Bitcoin ETFs, where we're going to get a constant inflow of money supply into Bitcoin and into cryptocurrencies subsequently, which means that the price of Bitcoin begins to get elevated to higher levels that we have not seen, and it stays there. So 50K becomes our floor. And we still have the normal 4-year cycle topping out in Q4 of 2025. However, we go a lot higher than anyone anticipated. And I'm leaning towards there, right? I will say that my past predictions have just been really spot on, and I'm kind of humbled by it. I'm surprised by it, actually. I don't expect anyone to be able to call a cycle or to predict the future. I mean, it's completely absurd. But the calls we've been making on this channel has been hitting and like dead on the nail, and I'm definitely happy with it, and I'll continue to make these calls. I'll also ask you to manage your risk, because no one can predict the future. These are just my opinions, right? But shout out to the Patreons. The Patreons are benefiting from these calls. AIT's up 90%, GTAI up 1,300% over when I mentioned DexCheck. They have lists of the 50 to 100 X gems. So if my predictions continue to work out, that's 50 to 100. It sounds ridiculous even saying it. I will also say manage your risk. The Patreon, to me, I don't know why anyone would not be a part of it. It's like confusing to me because it does, one or two of these calls pays for the entire year of the Patreon. So I don't get it, but I will not force anyone to do anything. This is not financial advice, by the way. Crypto is highly risky. You can lose your funds. Anything that could go to 100 times your money, meaning you put 1,000 in, there's a possibility of getting 100,000 out on the back end, which is completely absurd. I do not know of any other industry where you can do that. I just don't. But do manage your risk. Do not put your rent money or your car note or something into it thinking you're going to make a quick flip, because it is not a quick flip. There's high risk involved, and to get the most amount of gains takes the longest amount of time. Now, if we're talking about a 2-year period, there is nowhere that I know of where you could make those kind of returns in a 2-year period. So not being involved in crypto at this point, in my humble opinion, is more high risk than to be involved. Like, I think it's financially irresponsible to not have some Bitcoin, some Ethereum, or some cryptocurrency in your portfolio. Not financial advice, my opinion. All right, looking at the crypto bubbles, everything is green, super green. If we're, this is incredible. All of these coins are up. If you look at Say's up 48% here. I'm actually bullish on Say. A lot of these coins are doing really, really well. And speaking of being bullish, my top picks have just been flying. I've mentioned Regen, Paragen. This was a launch pad. This is a launch pad where you get huge allocations on projects. It's a high risk launch pad, by the way. You're not going to get these 50x, 100x coins without having high risk. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. However, this is up more than 40% from when I mentioned it in group. These are the kind of deals that the Patreons are getting that you're not getting if you're not a part of this group. This is supremely undervalued. This is one of the most undervalued groups in crypto, in my humble opinion. And it is completely taken off. It is ripping. It's taken off like Bitcoin, Bitcoin exponentially, right? You see the gains that Bitcoin are making. We're doing like 10x whatever this is. So it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So I would definitely be a part of that. And things are going according to plan. We are about to take off. We've already taken off, but we're really about to take off. And as far as the gains are concerned, I was calling Script. Script is up more than 40% from where I called it. Next is up over 40%. AIT is up over 80% from where I called it. Shresh is up over 20%. Everything that I've mentioned has been up tremendously. So my gains are outperforming the market, and the Patreons are getting in at the lows, right? So it's not that like if you see this up 23%, it's not that they're up 23%. From where I call it, they're up 40%. And that's the difference in a bull run for making, let's say, a 40x versus an 80x is the entry point, right? Now you have to control your exit point, obviously, right? Because you want to keep the money when you exit. But your entry is just as important as where you exit. So if you get in on the extreme lows, it lowers your risk. It also lowers your anxiety. You don't have to worry about the market being pulled back by a certain amount because you've got in at the lows. So it doesn't matter if Bitcoin were to crash and go down to crash to 48K. If it were to crash to 48K, it doesn't matter to you because you're still up like 70%. So if Bitcoin crashes to 48K, you're still up. So you're not worried at all. And when we get the Valhalla candle and you start seeing the 10, 20, 25, 30, 40 X's, you're going to be a happy camper. So again, if you're not in the Patreon, I don't know why, actually, but everything is going according to plan. This is like, this report is so simple, like everything's just falling into place, And another thing too, on the pullbacks, I'm monitoring the market every day, all day, like 10 wins I'm like, I'm just on top of it. So every time there's a deal, I'm sending this deal to the Patreons immediately. You know, DCA alerts, all these 5 coins that I mentioned, all 5 of them are up. They're up more like than 20%. All of them are up. Everything is literal, and you're getting personal feedback with information that the majority are not getting. So this is a tremendous value. There's also free courses in here, by the way. I have free courses on how to pick low cap gems and how to handle your crypto portfolio, and how to make the best decisions in crypto, entry points and exit points. So again, I mean, this is ridiculous. This is actually too easy. I feel like I'm shooting fish in a barrel, actually. And I'm trying not to get too overconfident, because if you get overconfident, that's when you make mistakes, right? So I'm going to keep it humble. I'm going to keep it low. But let's listen to our friend here.
A lot more is SEC Chair Gary Gensler. Good morning,
Mr. Gensler.
Good morning. Good to be with you. So it's a month later, and I think we're all curious about how you think this is.
You remember the call I had on this before the Bitcoin ETFs? I told you that once BlackRock gets involved, that they're going to pass it. They don't have a choice. Everything I'm saying is just like it's like dominoes. It's just, but I'll let the video go ahead and play.
Is going. Not just in terms of what's happened to the price, but in terms of what you think is happening inside this market, and whether you think it's quote unquote working.
Well, look, we focus on investor protection, and of course the issuer is raising money. So this product, we've had similar products in gold and silver, ETFs you call them. They're technically exchange traded products. And we approved a group of about 11 at one time. This was not the first way you could buy or express a risk in Bitcoin. But as we like to say, we're merit neutral. This was not in any way like an approval of Bitcoin. That existed. It's just how to trade it in these exchange traded products.
We've had both a futures-based Ether and Bitcoin ETF before, and I'm curious sort of how you think that this is going to impact the price of these things, given that, by the way, interestingly, was it Pomp who was just on, Anthony Pompliano was just on earlier this week and was saying that so few Bitcoins are actually moving, and what we should think of that.
In merit neutral, I think it's a little less than neutral, Mr. Chairman. It almost was, we called it grudgingly. When you finally got it from the court case sort of forced in. Is it really just neutral, or wasn't there a little bit of a, we're not sure about this thing, and buyer go away?
Let me say it this way.
Yeah.
We're merit neutral if somebody's complying with the laws.
Okay.
They're giving full, fair, and truthful disclosures to the American public, who gets to decide on their investments.
But you're so smart. You're at MIT, and people listen to your what you think about Bitcoin, and it is troublesome to me if I look at it and I see all the merits of it, and someone that taught about it and understands it seems to have an opinion that maybe it's, I don't know, pet rockish or something.
I get your words about pet rocks and so forth, but I think we also have an investor education responsibility at the SEC, particularly about.
Basically, guys, just so you understand what's going on, they were against Bitcoin before, and you're going to start to see the opinion on it shift into pro-Bitcoin, because it goes along with the cycle, and it goes along with the way to make money. This is the amount of money that's going to be generated by fees on a Bitcoin ETF is going to be staggering. So a lot of people are going to be making a lot of money here.
And investors are just lining up in the bankruptcy court.
What do you make of, this goes to the underlying piece of this, you've heard Jamie Dimon say that he would close it down, that basically Bitcoin is, you've seen the comments, right? It's not just that he closed down, that he would say it's used by drug dealers and used by folks who are doing all sorts of illicit and terrible things. There's very few things that trade today that people talk about like that. Now, there are obviously frauds and things that happen, but maybe not like this.
like the dollar is like 100 times more.
I know that's your perspective, but I'm just I'm curious how you think about that.
That's true, though. This is how much has been money laundered with Bitcoin. This is how much. This is Bitcoin. This is dollar.
Yes, Joe. But look, here's the Jamie Dimon quote. The only true use case for it is for criminals, drug traffickers, money laundering, and tax avoidance. I know, but we have a guest.
That's his opinion.
We have a guest, Joe. What is your opinion? And what is your opinion that we have something trading on the exchange for the public that has this type of use case, at least as described by the president of one of the largest financial institutions in the country?
It's the leading market share in ransomware, and that's publicly known.
Right.
You know, it's the token of choice for ransomware. Joe, if I can say, the U.S. dollar, the euro, the yen, you have the whole society using it as a medium of exchange. We buy our cups of coffee, as I see here. Right. We get paid in dollars or yen or euro. And you have a whole central bank and support for one currency generally per economic region. That we don't have here. So there's a very real economic difference.
Which is part of the attraction, since it's decentralized, and you can't have.
Okay, let me just pause. I want to address the topic of Bitcoin being used for money laundering and support of terrorism and these kind of things. If you repeat something enough times, people will believe it. They will start to believe it. Bitcoin is the worst tool to use for money laundering and terrorist activity. The reason why is because the blockchain is immutable. The transaction is going to exist for the rest of time. So if something was done illegally and the source of the funds is on a general ledger, that 5 years from now someone could go back and see you made a $20,000 payment to do an illicit activity, and they could connect that wallet to your name. They know that the money, that the amount that was wired was $20,000, right, or a certain denomination, and they know it was wired around a certain time, right? So at 5 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, $20,555 was wired to, and then the kidnapped person was let go or whatever. This is an immutable record that will exist forever, right? So if they could connect that wallet address to your identity, you are done. So it's kind of foolish to use crypto to conduct illegal activities, because as soon as you're KYC'd and you're identified as the person, when you get the money, what are you going to do? You're going to do something with the money. So like the person is doing the illicit activity, and I'm assuming these are going to be big funds, right? These are not going to be like a $5 transaction, right? So it'll be like $20 million. So all of a sudden now you have money to supply your arms deal or whatever it is. You have tanks and bombs and these kind of things. So they're going to be able to connect. All of a sudden this regime has money to fund criminal activity with the fact that the payment was made at that time. So in Gensler, he probably knows more than I do about blockchain technology and about cryptocurrency. So obviously he is playing you, and they've been playing us for a very long time. This is a narrative that they push to keep people out of cryptocurrency while they accumulate the cryptocurrency, in my opinion, right? So now that you see all of these ETFs are approved, they're going to eventually own the majority of the Bitcoin, because whoever controls the funds, the money supply, is going to be able to acquire most of the assets, no matter what the asset is. It could be Bitcoin, it could be real estate, it could be any asset you could imagine, right? If you're a salaried person and you're depending on your salary, which is pittance, versus the people that own the land, own the country, and then that makes the laws, you're not going to be able to compete with them financially when it comes to acquiring resources, right? So when these resources get pushed up by 10,000%, after that, then you're allowed to buy the resource, right? So which further continues the imbalance. So don't watch what people are saying, watch what they're doing. We've predicted the laws changing once, and we've also predicted that people will be able to access Bitcoin and Ethereum and these kind of cryptos once the onboarding ramps are complete and once most of the Bitcoin and cryptos are owned by the elites. Right, so that's what's really happening. All of this that you're watching right here is theater. It's entertaining, but you know, Gensler is from MIT. He had great praises for Algorand, and he knows what's going on, and he knows the power of crypto and Bitcoin, and he's just saying what he's saying to make the public think a certain way. And he's a pretty good actor. He's really good at what he does. If you look at the questions before Congress and the Senate floor, where he was saying, "Well, is Ethereum a security or not?" And he's like, "Well, it depends what you mean by security and how you define it." Come on, man. It's really a game at this point, and I hope that you guys have been acquiring this entire time, especially during the fear tactics when ADA, Matic, Solana, and other cryptos were described as securities. I hope you were accumulating during the 40% dump and you were acquiring your position. And even if you were not, it is not too late to acquire altcoins. I will continue to acquire them, and I will let you know if we get to a point where things are too frothy. The markets, the top 10 coins are up 10x, or I'd be like, hey, maybe now is not a good time to be acquiring. I will let you know that. But yeah, just take these kind of things as theater. If you look, so this is a CNBC anchor that is challenging Gensler. In the past, CNBC anchors would not be pro crypto, and they would not, overtly come out and say it like this. So whether it's CNN or it's Fox News or whatever news media you're watching, you are being manipulated, right? The elites control the media, so you will be manipulated by the media. But the acting is really, really good, and it's very convincing. Absolutely.
A profligate central bank.
It's not that decentralized.
Well, I know you're saying because of the ETFs, but really it is.
It's not that decentralized because look how finance tends towards centralization since antiquity.
Right.
So what do we have? We have a handful of 3 to 6 core so-called crypto
I understand, but the asset itself, the way that
that's how the accounting ledger.
Right. That's how the ledger. And
now, how many times do you have people on this show that say, "I want to invest in something because how the books and records are kept"? I mean, Joe, really? It's just an accounting ledger, a clever.
It's a ledger that everyone has, and can't be double counted. It's almost immutable. That's why people think it has.
So you trust it more than an Oracle database, or you trust it more?
I trust it more than a lot of the Bitcoin bulls say they trust it a lot more than the central bank that enables.
Bottom line, guys, when in doubt, look at the chart. If you're not sure what's going on, look at the chart, right? You don't really have to watch news like that. It's great theater. But look at the chart, right? You see where we are right now? You see this big green bar? We're about to recover all of this, right? That's all you need to know. So if we're going to recover that and the altcoins haven't really started doing their 10x yet, then it would be a good idea to have a bag of altcoins before that happens. You also look at a chart and you see the halving coming up. Right, so it's a no-brainer to be in the market before all of that happens, right? If you didn't know the news, you didn't know what's going on politically, with the fear tactics in the world, whether it's COV or a war or a recession or whatever else, a flood, whatever else that comes up in the news, if you didn't know any of that, and you just look at the chart, you just be like, okay, I want to get in because it looks like it's about to do this again, right? It looks like it's about to do that leg. So I want to get in before it does that, and that's the bottom line. Another thing too, if you know numbers and you know that we're getting so many inflows versus outflows into Bitcoin from the ETFs every day, that eventually we're just going to go parabolic, right? Because it's just math. That's another thing. So you could drown out the noise if you choose to, or you could watch it for entertainment, but don't let it influence your decisions too much. It's just a bunch of noise. And again, I reiterate, shout out to the Patreons that are in tremendous profit. And we're going to keep the ball rolling. We're going to keep this thing moving. We're going to make really, really big gains. And we really don't care. We're just going to do what we need to do, right? So we turn that down a little bit. So that's it, man. Remember to take care of yourself. Take care of your physical, mental, and spiritual health. This is not a test. This is CryptoXL, and I'm out.